All right, welcome, Philosophy 1500, my online section. How are you doing? This is week three, and you're off and running. Just a few things I want to point out. First of all, I'm going to stress it again. APA 7 for citations and references are required in this class, and they're really required by me on your discussions and your assignments. If you use a source, if you use material from a source, in other words, someplace other than between your own ears, you must provide citations and references. Every reference must have a corresponding citation in the body of the work that you are submitting. You cannot have a reference without citations, and you cannot have citations without references. We do this so that we can avoid plagiarism. Last week, many of you lost points. This next week, if you still insist on not properly citing and referencing, you'll lose more points. Eventually, this could get to the place where it's seen as plagiarism. We don't need to get to that point, do we? I don't think so. So just cite and reference. The Cleary University Library has a wonderful page called Writing and APA. Go there, check it out. The student version, it's wonderful. There's two drop down menus on the middle of the page. They give you step by step instructions on how to cite the various sources because in APA 7, different sources are formatted differently in the citation. Well, not in the citations, they're all the same, but in the references. Italics are used for the title of a journal article, but it's for the title of the book, not that we use it. Okay, so the title of a book, when you're using a book, gets italics. If you use a journal article, which is uh, academic writing, but not a book, you do not put in italics. You don't put the title in italics. You put the title of the journal itself in italics. That's just one thing. Plus, you need to have a stable URL. So anyway, if you have any questions, please send me an email. Okay, let's get to this week. Week three, eudaimonia. Aristotle had a lot to say about eudaimonia, and you're to be reading about that this week, so I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but basically it's the concept of what constitutes the best life. And by the words best life, we could say what does society deem is the best life for its citizens to have? Or what does each individual citizen think that the best life is for them? And we're going to be learning about that. So we're going to be considering virtue, purpose, meaning, being able to achieve one's full potential, liberty. What does this mean in the context of business ethics? Because remember, this philosophical class truly is an ethics class, a business ethics course. But in order to talk about business ethics, we must talk about philosophy, both classical and modern philosophy, including the philosophers from the Enlightenment. So Soren Kierkegaard and Heidegger and many of these wonderful philosophers you're going to be being exposed to through this course. So I want you thinking about what constitutes the best quality of life in your view. Another thing that we need to talk about is whistleblowing. You're going to be learning about whistleblowers. Okay. Now, whistleblowing, it's very clear what whistleblowing is and isn't. If I need to report an organization, I need to whistleblow by using the proper governmental agency that covers that. So if it has something to do with higher education, I would go to the Department of Education. If it has to do with law enforcement, I probably would talk to the FBI, or the Department of Justice. We need to go to the proper governmental body in order to truly be whistleblowers. To just go on social media and rant and rave about the company I work for, that's not whistleblowing. That's being disloyal. So there is a difference. Social media is a wonderful tool, but for the whistleblower, it does not give you protection. But if you follow what the law says, now, the laws are interesting. The very first Whistleblower Act in America was back in, I want to say 19, pardon me, back that up. 1778, I think it was. And it was during the time of the Revolution, and there was the need to make sure that the military was getting the right high quality armaments provided to it. And since At that time, we didn't have mass manufacturing. Everything was bespoke or cottage-based manufacturing. Oh, there was a lot of shady business practice going on. So there was a whistleblowing act that was instituted. Now, during the Civil War, so we move forward from the 1770s into the 1860s, that time period, whistleblowing act was defined even further because the Union troops, they wanted to make sure that, well, their armaments again were meeting certain standards. There was criteria that their munitions had to meet. And so they had to find a way that the employees or even the soldiers would be able to be a whistleblower and report this inferior quality in supplies. So they established that. Now, most recently, Whistleblowing Act as of 2020, I mean 2012, had been defined yet even further with the Whistleblower Protection Act of 2012. That's a hard thing for me to say for some reason. A lot of states enact their own acts as well. So there's legislation at the state level, there's legislation at the federal level when it comes to whistleblowing. So when you are going through learning about whistleblowing this week, feel free to do a little Google search. But remember, vet your sources when you're online because anybody can post anything online. Anybody can make a web page. Anybody can have the search engines point to it. It doesn't mean it's credible. So how do we make sure that it is credible material? Well, one, I vet the information when I use it. I want to find more than one source that makes that claim. So if I find website XYZ that makes a claim, I want to see how many other websites I can find that make the same claim or substantiate it. I also look at that website and I see, do they cite and reference their sources? If so, then I can look at their sources and verify that those are indeed valid. All right. So make sure that you do vet online sources. So that's just what I want to talk about eudaimonia and whistleblowing, give you a little bit of a taste for the week. Make sure that you read the material and you watch the videos that are provided for you on Canvas. Do your work. Discussions, the initial post is due by Wednesday evening. The replies, and yes, you do have to do at least 2 replies. You need to reply to at least 2 classmates every week. Otherwise, it's not much of a discussion. And this is an online course, so the discussion is actually a big part of what this course is. It's how we connect as a class. So make sure you reply to at least 2 students, because if you don't, the rubric, that's an automatic 5-point deduction right there. And given 16 weeks, that could be an entire letter grade that you lost just because you weren't doing 2 replies a week. So make sure you keep up with your replies. You have that one discussion, you have the replies. There is no assignment that I'm seeing in Canvas this week, but you do have the discussions. So I look forward to reading your discussions. Once again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please send me an email. Unfortunately, you can't throw rotten fruit there either, or rotten vegetables, tomatoes, or cabbage. You can't throw that at me, but you can let me know. If you have any issues that come up, any problems, please contact me as well. Thank you very much and have a wonderful, great day.